Welcome, everyone. I'm Theo O'Brien, and this is the Hopecast from Library of Hope. We're a living archive of people, ideas, and experiments that show us how futures can be shaped with creativity and a whole lot of imagination. This podcast is where we really dig into that idea, talking to artists, thinkers, and doers, exploring what tomorrow could feel like and look like if we got it right. Now, that would be nice. I'm joined, as always, by the legend that is Helen Trickey, and today we're talking to Sam Bompas, one half of Bompas Parr, the studio behind things like glow-in-the-dark jellies, techno milk tastings, and multi-sensory temples like the Pleasure Pavilion, all designed to mess with how we engage with the world around us. Now, Sam's work sits at the edge of design and emotion. He uses joy, ritual, and lots of curiosity to stretch how we think, feel, and dream about what's next. It's a reminder that fun isn't just fun, it can also be a tool for change, and what happens when we design the future through feeling, not just thinking. Well, let's get into it. Hello. Hi, Sam.
Hello. Very
Welcome.
wonderful to be here.
We're so excited to have you here. We'd love to just hear a little bit more about you and, of course, Bompas Parr.
Very lovely to be speaking to you. I'm Sam Bompas. Over the years, have been called many things. Things like culinographer, architectural foodsmith, jellymonger, culinary deviant. I think the main thing is I work with my business partner, Harry. We've known each other for a very, very long time. To try and do remarkable, interesting things with food and drink, of course, and have fun along the way. Fun's a very crucial part of it. I think an awful lot of what people anticipate what we do is wild and wacky experiments. A lot of what we actually do is probably not dissimilar to what you might see in an office. But so there's lots of meetings, there's lots of Excel documents and budgets, there's lots of Word documents. But all of that is affected to bring and align quite large teams of creatives together to do things that probably shouldn't really happen in the world, but hopefully it makes some people smile, it makes some people have a great time. And that is crucial too.
Sam doesn't just imagine the future, he lives there. Even his spreadsheets are portals mapping what could be rather than what is. So much of what you do, though, is about experience, right? Like experience-led. So what are you hoping that people experience through one of your experiential events?
So I'm sitting here in a meeting room, but behind me there are panels made of wax because we made an entire room made out of wax that you could step inside and with sourced honeys from around the world. 40 different types of honey, which when you put them all together side by side, because they're made from, really bees are sourcing from around 200 meters around the hive. So the flavors are just remarkably distinct when you taste them all together. There might be one that tastes like Marmite, one that tastes like milk, one that's really, really spicy and really sort of punishing for your tongue and face as you're eating it. And I think having a tasting like that, where you taste through the entire world of honey in a matter of 40 minutes or so, hopefully gives people sort of a sense of awe and wonder, the remarkableness of the world around us when we just approach it with a sense of jamais vu, like sort of taking things that we all could have lots. Honey could be seen as being quite humdrum, but of course it's really, really amazing as well. Both those things coincide. And, all of that, the thing that I'd love people to take away is, not necessarily be inspired by honey at all, but the thing, we're very interested in this. Ask themselves what they're very interested in and what they could do to pursue that and share that interest.
So from your Word document and your getting everyone together and the ideas on a page, how do you turn that into the magic? Like is there always the same kind of approach, or is this, is it you feel your way through? Like, what have you learned over time to turn incredible ideas into these magical experiences?
Yeah, and I think before we started, we were talking about how actually, obviously, a lot of what I spend my time doing is writing and emails, which doesn't necessarily sound particularly spectacular. But what they're all about is things that are spectacular, like doing a New Year's fireworks show for 250,000 people, where you see fireworks exploding around you and you taste strawberries, or you have edible banana confetti raining down on you. And 250,000 people is a very large group. It's larger than the live audience that are watching the Super Bowl. But I really believe that writing things down, that is, stories are spells, and by writing things down and writing stories, that is a form of spell casting, because it shapes the future that we step inside. So the actual writing things down and doing the emails, that is the magic that then creates the possible futures that we can step into together if we want. It really is very, very powerful in terms of shaping people's realities.
I think it's a good gauntlet to set people, like, listening to this, you've made me want to go and write my emails now.
Also, if that email that you could write could just be 10% better than you normally would spend 10% more time, and make people smile a little bit, I think that's always great. I love like finding sort of weird images or strange facts to append to an email. And I think it just means that opening it is a complete delight, and it's so rare that happens. It'll be even rarer as now you have interminable AI prompts to help you with this task. I was with my nieces, who are at the moment 7 and 9, and their maths homework came out, and they threw their hands up in glee that they're about to do maths homework. I looked askance at my sister. I was like, have you not told them yet? They're not supposed to enjoy this. She's like, keep it secret for now. So I try and spend a lot of my time trying to re-enchant my maths homework in that way. And if you can do that, that's great. Getting back to like the sorts of things we do at Bompas Parr, a lot of it is because we're involved in the world of museums, we're involved in the world of brands, we're involved in the world of governance. And quite often we're taking things that you might have seen many, many times before, like a pint of Guinness. Now, that as an artifact is remarkable, but also it's very boring at the same time. The two exist. And the thing that I enjoy doing is trying to find what is the new story that's in it? How can you tell that again? And at the moment it seems to be a lot about milk, actually. It seems to be a lot of milk is back. Milk is really hot.
Okay. It's oat milk, right? I feel like everyone's now telling me to go back to regular milk.
I mean, if you look at the sales by volume, oat milk didn't entirely take over from milk. Its milk was still selling vast order of magnitudes more than oat milk, many, many times more than oat milk globally. But of course, there was lots of noise around it. But I think oat milk is now doing really interesting things in terms of questioning what is reality. Oat milks used to spend a lot of time pretending that they were the same as cow's milk, but somehow you'd polish your halo if you had it. And actually, they're sort of leaning into the creative possibilities of it. So I know that there are now some hitting the market that are all sorts of lurid colours. Why shouldn't they be candy pinks and deep velvet greens? They can be. Perhaps it's more interesting if they are. And at the same time, there are sort of like novel techno milk products. We've just been making lactose-free milk, which tastes absolutely delicious, and promoting that with Arla. Plus lots of alcoholic milks as well. It's fat for us as humans is delicious. It's a privilege when you combine it with sugar, and particularly alcohol. It's a wonder. Yeah, people's brains light up. It's so cool. It's so fun. I love it.
We talked about how design meets emotion. For Sam, ritual isn't about nostalgia. It's a way to shape how people feel, act, remember.
I was going to say, is there a food that you haven't gotten to work with yet that you would love to? Like one that you just see epic potential for?
I mean, that's a really, really good question. I quite like the possibilities of impossible foods, and I think there are companies now looking to do more of that. So someone like Val, who are they're like a forge for future protein, whereas many of the sort of vegan directed protein shops were looking towards making things that were an analog or replacement for meat. They're sort of interested in going far beyond it. So you might have seen some of their work when they made the first mammoth meatballs, which I think it's completely delightful. It's what are the things that we haven't eaten that we'd love to eat, that through the veil of science we can start to apprehend.
Yeah.
Do you think you're really inspired by science? Is it science or the creativity, or is it the combination of both of those? Because obviously it sounds like you're really inspired by the surreal and, you know, maybe the slightly absurd in a great way. But like, where does that come from for you? Where did that kind of, that love for the weird or the weirdness kind of stem from?
Well, I think science is one of the many tools for inspiration. I think, you know, when you work with food, there's an awful lot of trust. You can't just tell people ludicrous things because they are trusting you with their health in a very real way. You do need to keep them safe. So there does need to be like a real degree of rigor. You know, quite often we'll work with scientists to try and push the boundaries of food. See, and do you think, you know, for example, working with some of the team at Dr. Sylvia Begodia in Cambridge. She's at the chemistry department, and her team have been looking at, well, they're taking polyacondensata plants. It's the world's shiniest living thing. And the berries look like they're covered in tiny iridescent pixels. It's like one of those very shiny beetle backs. But it can also, because it's completely inert, it can last forever. And that inertia, because it's a structural pigment, that inertia means that it's really safe for you to eat because it won't be bioavailable. Right. So in a world where many dyes can either have an impact on flavor or your health, or, you know, some dyes some very good dyes are still animal based, like cochineal, that bright red. That's an amazing story in its own right. That department at Cambridge is looking at how they can create artificial structural dyes like that, so it can make your chocolate bar shine like the back of a CD player. It looks absolutely incredible when you have this. And I think part of the drive for that as well is ultimately to do something that is not drawing on the world's resources as an impactful way, is completely safe for us to eat, and is more shiny than any food you've ever had before, which is really cool. But at the same time as that sort of scientific endeavor, we're not scientists, you know, and quite often what we're able to bring is some of the more artistic and creative elements, and of course audiences as well. It's not just making things for the sake of making them, it's making things for the sake of delighting people. And this is where we'll look to being experienced designers, because you got to think about the end audience. You know, if it's not interesting to people, what's the point?
Can joy and mischief unlock different kinds of change? Sam makes the case for weirdness, curiosity, and play as acts of resistance.
Where are we on the life cycle, on the journey of like synthetic and lab made food? Because again, you touched on the fact that the world's resources are changing, and you know, people talking about coffee and chocolate and grains and all of these things that are natural resources. Like, is this the era? You know, GM food has been around for a while, but is this the era of lab grown many things? Or should we be expecting more of this generally?
I think the food system in general is a source of wonder. It is amazing. We today in the West, in Britain, we're able to go to the local supermarket and eat like literally royalty from the West. Yeah. With things that are out of season because they've been shipped around the world. I think that's really exciting, and also through trade, which is really important, being able to connect with other places, and food's a really good way of doing this. Now, I think there is terrific scope for synthetic biology to expand what it is possible to eat, to expand what is possible to afford. But I think we're still a long way when you start casting into the future, and we do a lot of like future thinking around it. When people ask, what are we going to be eating in the future? The answer probably is still burgers. They're absolutely delicious. Yeah. So there's a lot that can happen. What do you like eating? What gets you excited?
I am obsessed with Asian food and Asian culture. So for me, like every weekend, I need to go somewhere new. I need to try something I haven't tried before. And it's
cool.
Yeah, I don't know what, it's always been within me. For me, I just need to try something new place, new texture, new flavor, and nothing excites me more than that. It's probably not too dissimilar to what you're doing there. You know, you get to a point, like you won't ever get to a point where you've tried everything, obviously, but there does get to a point where we kind of exhaust our senses. And so the excitement of like having, I mean, I think I have, but you know.
That sounds incredibly decadent. you're on the divan and smoking your opium pipe, and you're like, I think I simply have exhausted every opium pipe.
Please, I'm going off piece now, but back on that a little bit. I was from afar watching your the latest event, the Future of Pleasure, and I was watching people like going, I swallowed the blue pill, everything else they were doing there. But what can you tell us a little bit more about what was going on there and what in fact was in the blue pill?
That was a report on the future of nightlife, and the pleasure
Right.
it's incorporated into it is leisure. So it's leisure in the public realm. I'm really interested in what we as humanity emerge out into the public realm and do together for our fun. And that in particular was looking at nightlife, and we've heard lots and lots of statistics that maybe are a bit gloomy. Demise of nightlife, with pubs and clubs closing at such a rate that if they continue at this rate, there'll be no nightclubs in Britain by 2030. Now, of course, this isn't going to happen at all, because we as humans need opportunities to get together in public places and celebrate and cavort. We discover new typologies of experience. While big clubs might be closing, I was working with a great young creative director. He's like 22, and he's like, look, if I can't afford to put on a night at a club, I'll put on a night at a park bench. I'll get a sound system. I'll put it there. People will come. They'll dance. It will happen. Yeah, there's that energy and possibility, and ultimately optimism. But when we're delivering that report, and you can go online, it's on the website now. You can download it. You can see all of our findings about how we should imagining futures can shape in the future. But delivering it, it's a PowerPoint presentation. You want to zhuzh it up, and so in that case, we're giving people blue pills filled with blue lotus, which is a flower which enhances potentially your perception of color. So it might be the brightest, most redolent, eerie, scintillating PowerPoint that you've ever had. I think we also gave everyone there some kebab flavored lip balm. Some of the team wants to bring back drunk snogs, and in a world of Ozempic, if no one's eating kebabs anymore, maybe lip balm is the place for kebab delivery.
Yeah, man.
Glistening
lamb fat.
Exactly. It was very meaty. It was very delicious.
Amazing.
Everyone's lips look amazing. but again, it's the report was energetic and energizing as a consequence of writing that report, which is a lot of hard work at a laptop. In that case, it was Kirsten Wilson, who's the lead strategist in the studio who's authoring that, with all the studio inputting ideas, and then also like many external sources. But as a consequence of that, you have lots and lots of conversations that start turning into reality. So as a consequence of that, we're speaking with the Royal Ballet and quite a notorious IP film about seeing if we can combine them all. It's going into and informing some of the policymakers who in October will be launching a major nighttime strategy for London.
Yes, I'm so
excited. You can see that sort of interaction between all of them. That's really cool.
Some projects look surreal, but they're really sketches for new systems, ideas that invite people to rethink, refeel, and reimagine, and maybe redesign the world around them.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, Sadiq Khan's got a big thing about the nightlife in London right now. So, yeah,
but why come to London? I think London is or cities themselves. I think the sort of greatest achievement of mankind, that we can live in cities, and they've become these great factories for ideas. And I love living in London because of the sort of weird frictions that happen between people and places. And you go to the pub and you speak to someone there, and you'll be in the pub and I'll be speaking with most recently one of the heads of the unions, who's looking at when the energy companies start the work on the new nuclear power stations, what happens with all of the workers descending on quite a rural area. What happens if you have 5,000 people working in construction all suddenly coming to the same place at the same time, and then Friday night all arriving in the pub at the same time? How do you preserve the character of those places? And I think that's fascinating.
Yeah, that's a big planning job. I lived in the middle of nowhere for college and near military bases, And every so often we would get an influx of military, and they'd clearly have been working heads down doing their thing, and then they'd come out, and one evening I remember just all the pubs just shutting. They're just like, we
Yeah,
can't, it's too much
we can't do
energy.
it. But it's also like, if you look back to history, some of those infrastructure projects and the associated workers and then also wealth that they brought completely radicalizing the country. So like the projects to put the railways across Britain had gangs of what were called at the time navvies going through very rural areas with a lot of spending money and a bunch of lads off work, but it increased the sort of circulation of ideas and started putting Britain into modern time. So it can be a source of innovation as well and optimism.
It's been fascinating to watch the cities in the last, I'd say, well, maybe in my sphere and seeing this kind of show up more and more, cities taking back power where countries and governments are not evolving quickly enough. And so actually seeing the cities join together when you're looking at climate change, or when you're looking at actually, again, how do you serve a mass population, and seeing the mayors of these cities from Brazil to the UK, various countries across Europe. And I'm loving it. Like, I'm loving all of these leaders in cities, because ultimately resources where resources, and it's going to continue as the world evolves. The projections are that more people will be flocking to cities, generally speaking. And so these kind of amazing hubs of energy, and as you say, all these different types of people rubbing along together, that has got to be it's a hotbed for innovation and opportunity, and it also needs a lot of like conscious thinking about how that happens. But I love, like, spotlight on cities. I just think they're the most fascinating place, and they're going to continue to be so.
Any favourite cities, Tricky?
Do you know what? Someone asked me this question recently, and it got into a real competition on who could name the most obscure city. But honestly, London's up there. And not because of lack of travel or thoughtfulness, but I love it. I just love London. Other ones that I enjoy, I love New York and London, probably my core two. I think Europe, we're really blessed with cities personally. Like, I love all of the heritage and the history. What are your favourite cities?
For me, it's Melbourne. Like, it feels like it's in my
Great
veins.
city.
It does just feel like it's intrinsic within me. It's one of those cities, like,
what is it? Yeah. What makes it the best?
For me personally, it is the multiculturalism, but it is like,
Yeah.
it's so creative, and it's like, there's elements of Bristol that feel like Melbourne, so you can get a bit of a vibe there. Everything feels a little bit underground. There's all of these alleyways in some cities that's the dangerous place. But in Melbourne, it's actually where all of the buzz happens, where all the cool shit happens, basically. We're in these dark little dingy alleyways, and everything's covered in graph, and there's like a massive music scene there. And it still feels like a small city, weirdly. But it's a combination of everything coming together and singing, and the food culture there is massive as well.
It's extraordinary. Eating in Melbourne is a wonder. We're doing some work there for Melbourne Food and Wine Festival. Actually, no, this is a little bit later. I think it's for the Melbourne Cup. It's quite totally different energy. But because we're working in with a lot of like food partners there, every single night we go out to fantastic restaurants, fantastic bars, fantastic coffee shops. And one of my team, I was like, I'm going out to this latest opening tonight. Do you want to come out? And she's like, no. Just gonna have a quiet night. I was walking around the city later on. I saw her coming out of Starbucks. And I was like, what are you doing? You're in like one of the great world food cities. They should be eating everything. And she's
like a weird guilty pleasure. Like,
she's really into.
I think she had. I think at this point they had reached their sensory limit. That was Starbucks was their palate cleanse, enabling
reset
to go back out into the lane.
Reset to reality.
That was fun. I personally have just been really enjoying Hamburg. So projects I can deliver in Hamburg.
Germany.
Really enjoying regional German museums. Hamburg's like a great port city, and it's got so you have interesting links with places like Liverpool as well, of course, because again they're both part of that 19th century shipping culture. But then again, referencing the laneways in Hamburg, you have it's amazing sort of cavalcade of bars directed to what would have once been sort of the maritime population, highly differentiated, which you can sort of bounce around between, and which is built for fun. Like, how do you have fun in cities? In America, like New Orleans, obviously, just terrific in terms of how music and food interact with the architecture and the spatial planning to drive pleasure. It's amazing.
What makes a city unforgettable? We talked about how place shapes us, not just through architecture and infrastructure, but through emotion, memory, and senses. The sound of a tram, the smell of back streets, good and bad, the buzz of a laneway bar. These are the details that stick. And when we notice them, they can wake up something in us too. A reminder of where we've come from and what kind of places, what kind of futures we want to create. I love that. Just want to go out now.
Let's do it. Let's go. Ramos gin fizzes all the way. A few carrés and clinking with steins.
So, obviously, it's a lot about ritual and doing cool things together as a community. It's bringing people together. But if you could reimagine a ritual, if you like, a dinner, a cafe experience, or any kind of ritualistic experience, what we do now, what would be your ultimate ritual reimagine?
I think on top of our list, and something I think about a lot, is how we can consume as a culture tobacco. So and I think there's a lot more scope for innovation in it. And part of the reason for this is like, obviously so much of our work at Bompas Parr is orientated towards alcohol and drinks consumption and drinks rituals. Now, humanity has been consuming alcohol for like really about 10,000 years or so. It's perhaps responsible for the dawn of civilization. It's perhaps responsible for the reason we have cities, as humankind settles down from being hunter-gatherers to being farmers, just for to be able to ferment alcohols. That's where a lot of it can be traced back to. But in the Western world, you've got a much shorter relationship with nicotine-aided products because they only come and enter the West's, I guess, sort of treasure trove of ingredients through the Columbian Exchange. It's when you start getting tobacco coming back. And you've seen remarkable innovation in this realm, even over the last decade, if you think. We didn't have all the widespread adoption of vapes or some of the IQOS products, the heated products, or more recently like snus exploding out from the Nordic countries to be elsewhere. So I think there's a lot that hasn't been explored yet that will be explored. I think it's really interesting. Now, of course, it's very, very complex because you're looking at a powerful, addictive, very, very harmful product. But how can you look at maximizing the benefits while minimizing the harm? And I sort of think, would you have David Lynch were it not for cigarettes? Would Lynch have come up with his ideas and given that creativity if it wasn't for cigarettes? And I don't know if he would.
Where does stuff like cannabis and mushrooms, like they're obviously factoring a lot more, and the trends are opening things up, and the creativity again, and I feel like everybody's got something new to talk about, especially when it comes to actually mushrooms. But how does that kind of plug into, again, all of these different substances that people traditionally within our lifetime have had complicated relationships with, right? Like because of law or because of again, cultural trends.
I think the person I look to for guidance on that is Mike J. So he's an expert in particularly historic drug use, and he's written some brilliant books on the subject as well. And there's a lot of articles on his website as well. So have a look at Mike J's website. But speaking to him, he really sees the 20th century as something the world look back on from the future as being the Great Prohibition, in the same way that America had an experiment in the 20s and 30s with prohibiting alcohol. It didn't particularly work that well. It led to a lot of criminality. It led to a lot of harm. And Mike's idea is that in years to come, we'll look back on how we treated drug prohibitions and consider them to be similarly great failures. Some of the taboos around them have stunted understandings of the possibility. Now, launching yourself, there's a lot of breathless excitement about the possibility, and I think that's of course unbelievably naive. I think approaching matters with a bit more balance might be helpful. So neither this is a panacea, it's going to solve everything, nor this is a diabolical scourge. And it's going to destroy society from within. But I think complicating the debate might be helpful. but maybe not treating it as a sort of polarized debate, I would also probably be quite helpful.
Yeah, I mean, that applies to, I feel like we're all in the era of whiplash. Like, it's just everything is that polarization, that pendulum swing from like, it's bad for you, it's brilliant. And at some point, all of these things, and I'll be interested in when in our lifetimes this happens, or if it happens in our lifetimes, but when all of these big polarizing moments and subjects all kind of work it out in the middle, and actually we find something that's beneficial in so many different ways that we could never have understood, because we've all been at the kind of the polar opposites arguing for the case. And
I think they're coming back to that as well at the same time. Like, yeah, a lot of our career is about just being enthusiastic about something.
yeah,
Kind of doesn't really matter. You just need to be at the, you know, at a level of like enthusiasm to carry all before it, to make something be achieved. But perhaps creating spaces where it's possible for there to be lots of opinions and them all to be true at the same time, like in a lab, and being comfortable to hold that. I mean, I always think it's crazy how much stick politicians get for doing a U-turn and and change their
someone love
opinion.
it as
It's like,
well.
yeah, but it's like if you find out more information, change your
Yeah.
opinion about something. If everyone else thinks it's a terrible idea and it genuinely is a terrible idea, you didn't know that when you thought it. It's okay to change your mind.
That's very true.
In
Yeah,
fact, it can be very brave to do so, and it can be very difficult to do so.
absolutely. There's more to that than sticking to your guns, even though if you were wrong, or like you say, if you've learnt new information or what have you, and that I think that's for everybody, right? To be okay with change and changing our opinion on things and moving forward in a different way.
I mean, there used to be a thing in the 19th century where, well, a lot of the 20th century as well, whereas if you're a captain and your ship was in danger and, you're ultimately responsible for it, you had to go down with your ship because it was your fault that this has all happened. Now, that's ludicrous. That's absolutely insane. Not least because if you really care about people not being in danger in shipping, your testimony, your insight in what happened might be useful in you surviving so that other people can learn from what went wrong so it doesn't happen again. Don't go down with the ship.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're in learning. I feel like everybody is in learning mode at the moment, but some are evolving with that better than others. I mean, part of where we're at right now is that there's been so much change, right, in the last few years, that some are just knuckling down and just saying, I'm not, this is it, this is where I stand. There is no evolution, which is also causing a complicated time.
And I think, that kind of, it does play in a little bit to what you're doing, Sam, with, finding interesting ways for people to learn new things and to open their mind a little bit. I think it's an important part of that process, that basically experiential things teach us so much more than data. So if you had 3 actions for our listeners, basically something they should try. What should they try tomorrow? What could they try in a year from now? Or what should they try in, like, what's a 5-year plan of things that they should experience or at least try once in their life?
Well, don't wait 5 years, do it now.
Yeah.
It's the first
Good.
thing. I find New Year's resolutions ludicrous because why can't you make that change this very second? In terms of what I'd imagine trying, I think about the best things I've tried recently that I haven't been really comfortable with. One of the things that I love is having a partner who's very different from me in many, many ways, and being curious about their interests and seeing what happens as a result.
The conversation widens into what it means to take creative risks, how play builds resilience, and what we can all do to make the future more exciting, more connected, and more importantly, alive.
So my greatest pleasure at the moment is going to see dance shows. And I've never really been interested in dance. I've never been to the ballet particularly. And my partner at one point was the world's best tap dancer. So as a consequence of her interest, there's been absolutely loads of dance shows. It's now my absolute favourite thing to do because there's space within what's going on, unlike a more heavily narrative driven production, to think and wonder and let your mind sort of coruscate against the forms of the dancers and being plunged into different realities. There's also space to be bored because boredom can be a terrific arena for finding your creativity and then being galvanized to not wait until New Year's to think of things, but to do them immediately the minute you come out of the show. And so, yeah, a lot of the things that I've been very, very inspired is being interested in her interests and looking at doing them myself.
Yeah, I love that.
And bodies are made to move.
So you seem like a very optimistic, positive human, which I love, and I appreciate your time for the energy that you bring, and I imagine everyone does. Where do you find your greatest hope? Where do you find your energy from? Like, maybe it's dance, maybe that's also the answer to that question as well. But what is it? Where do you get your hope and your energy from?
Before we wrapped up, we landed on something that's been running underneath this whole chat, that designing the future might just mean staying present, staying playful, and using all your senses to stay connected to the world around you. Here's Sam on what hope feels like when you're really experiencing it and living it.
Quite like thinking about all the things that haven't happened that you'll never be able to do and being comfortable with not being able to do them. Like, I've got an example of that, like Charles Dickens, and he'd have blank copies of books that he was never going to have time to write, bound. And it'd sit these beautiful editions with all the pages were empty above his desk. And yeah, of course, this is a writer who is unbelievably prolific, who was a very, very talented performer and reader who had performed a lot, the works that he was writing. But he had space in his mind, space in his study to imagine all the books he'd never have time to write. Some of them were like ludicrous titles as well, like 40 Winks Under the Pyramids. So, yeah, well, I'm sure we could very, very quickly get an AI to write what 40 Winks Under the Pyramids is.
Yeah.
Get a taste of it based on. But I think that is inspiring and also freeing.
I love that it's giving space to things that will never happen, but allowing the idea to still live.
But it might happen as well. We made a gingerbread in Selfridge's window for Christmas, and it was about 400 hours of baking. And we made all the buildings in London that had been planned but never built. And you have things like in Trafalgar Square, there was this plan to make a giant ziggurat that was as high as it is Trafalgar Square as broad. It was supposed to be a monument for the celebration of the commemoration of the Battle of Waterloo. And then it was going to be a columbarium, so it means that it'd have all these niches in where it'd have the remains of some of the soldiers who had died at Waterloo as well. And so that was one of the 40-odd buildings that we made out of gingerbread at Christmas for Selfridges, things that people have talked about and had never done. But in the process of doing that building haunts my imagination. So every time I'm crossing Trafalgar Square, I think I could be like mounting the steps of this giant, great big ziggurat that would allow you to look over London as you sat amidst the remains of the dead of Waterloo. And instead, of course, you're looking at Nelson's Column, which is pretty amazing as a statue in its own right. Plus the fourth plinth, which I love. I love the programming and the romanticism.
Yeah, it's cool.
Temporary sculpture that invades the space.
Yeah, I love it.
Well, I mean, the good news is we've finally remembered that statues do have an importance. They became quite political again, but even with statues, like I'd love to scent all the statues of London, so you could sniff your way through London statuary, and not least use that to again highlight a piece of research that the Mayor's Office did in London, which said that in London, I think there are more statues of animals in London than there are of named women, which is like an absolute travesty. And there's also can be remedied. Who are we going to make statues of in the future?
Yeah,
why are we going to make them?
Yeah, I love that. And this is the case. Yeah, I'm on it. Let's do it. Where should we start? Maybe that piece of research. We should include that research in case anyone's listening and would like to also get on board with that idea.
Who do your listeners want to make statues to?
Fee and I share a community in common called the VC Girls. I feel like we should put that out to them because they're dreamers and artists and all sorts of things.
Do it now. Get it made.
We should just go out tonight and maybe even paper mache, right? It's a dry night.
If you want a really wild time, look at the old and the public domain. They've got a folder of the papier-mâché parade floats that were once made for the parades in New Orleans. They are extraordinary. There'd be entire icebergs being whirled through the street out of papier-mâché. There'd be subterranean mystical fairy dances complete with meteors and shooting stars all below ground. Have a look. I think more can be done with papier-mâché.
Yes, I'm here for it. We're bringing back papier-mâché as of today.
That's the take from today.
I think it's great. I hope that's helpful. Like the sort of far-ranging contours of your show. It's really delightful.
You're so incredibly inspirational, and the way you live your life is, and how you show up. I think in a world right now where doom and gloom is happening, this is a very exciting time to be able to tell your story. So I really appreciate that, and thank you for taking that time.
Thank you for bringing hope and optimism.
We've all got to do it, right?
It's actually interesting because my business partner Harry, who I've obviously worked with for a very, very long time, his first child is called Pandora, and of course, hope is all that's left in Pandora's box when all the rest of the ills escape out. So I think about hope a lot.
You seem to read a fair amount, so we'll add to your list. But Fee's done some beautiful work on what is hope. Like if you Google it, it's a load of rocks on the beach, like pebbles saying hope, or cushions that have cross stitch saying hope, and it's not. It's grit and resilience.
You have the whole sort of all the CEOs all through COVID telling you how hope is not a strategy. It just completely pulls the rug from possibility.
Yeah. Hope is not a strategy.
Hope should be part of your strategy.
Yeah, well, that's it. And I think so many people try and use it just in like docs, it's in so many Word docs, I'm sure. Not yours, but if it is, it's for the right reasons, It's just overutilized. And with that, it loses its strength and its tangibility. I think hope needs to feel like it's for everyone, for everyone in their own way. But so often it becomes either over-intellectualized or it becomes this thing that becomes really naff and no one wants to be part of it anymore, or they don't believe it because it's not for them. So I think it's really important that it becomes for everybody.
Yeah, I'm ready for your hope.
It's women, it's dancing, it's Blue Lotus pills, it's all of it. It's all of the above.
This is how we're going to get through, guys.
This is it.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Sam. I really appreciate that.
Thank you so much. It's really good. I feel elated. Thank you very, very much for involving me. And such an urgent drive to present this energy. And my hope for you is that lots of people contact you with weird and interesting lives that they lead that are impacted by some of the things that they've learned from your show.
Thank you so much. This whole episode reminds us that the future does need fixing, but maybe not just through plans and policies. Maybe we fix it by feeling more, by designing experiences that wake up all the senses, that shake us out of this autopilot that we all feel in, that make the world feel strange, delicious, and worth engaging with again. Because when we feel more with our hands, our hearts, our taste buds, we imagine more too. And maybe that's the spark that sets something real in motion and changes everything. Thanks for listening to the Hopecast, a podcast by Library of Hope. If you want to explore more stories of imagined futures, visit libraryofhope.world. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Spotify, or YouTube, wherever you're joining us from. We'll be back with more conversations soon. Thanks again to our guest and to you for tuning in. Stay hopeful, stay curious.